Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Holliday from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special education teachers, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm Lisa Holliday, your host. Today's episode is going to hit a little close to home. We're not talking about student behavior today. Nope. Today, we're talking about adult behavior. Because truthfully, sometimes it's not the students who wear us down, it's the grown-ups. I'm talking about administrators, colleagues, even parents, the adults in our professional lives who are usually well-meaning, but who can be a little challenging. And if we're being honest, these difficult dynamics are a big reason why so many educators are feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, or really on the verge of burnout. It's not the kids, it's the adults. So let's first talk about mindset. I want you to try a challenge. I want you to try to reframe how you think about quote unquote difficult people or difficult adults. Instead of labeling someone as difficult, I want you to try to look at them through a different lens. What if they're not difficult? What if they're passionate or willful or opinionated? Maybe they're eager to be heard, but don't quite know how to communicate effectively. When we can put a more positive spin on their behavior, it does make it a little bit more easier to handle. Just like we do for our students, we give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's try to extend that same kind of mindset to the adults we work with as well. So I'm going to go over, I think I have 8 strategies about the better part of the 20 years I've been working, all the strategies that I kind of use, because let me tell you what, I've worked in 2 different states and 5 different districts in a bunch of different buildings, and I have come across so many difficult adults. Whether it's my paraprofessionals or school psychologists or the administration and even parents, I have had a hard time holding my tongue at one time or another. So the first strategy is I want you to be calm even when it's hard. I know that's easier said than done, but this is so important. You want to model the behavior you want to see, right? If someone approaches you with frustration, attitude, or they're being super passive aggressive, which I've had this year, you meet them with the same energy and it escalates every single time. Don't do that. Take a deep breath, slow your voice, and respond with calm professionalism. You shift that entire tone of the conversation. So you're holding your ground, but you're doing it in a way that kind of de-escalates everything instead of firing it up. Think about it like this. If we expect students to regulate their emotions, then we've got to show them how it's done, even us adults, because I know it ain't easy. Number 2, you need to understand their intentions, just like students, right? So there's always a reason behind this behavior, especially when we're talking about kids. This applies to adults too. Maybe that parent who's emailing you 10 times a day isn't trying to be a pain. Maybe they're scared and don't feel heard. Maybe the colleague who cuts you off in every meeting is dealing with massive insecurity and overcompensating issues. Maybe you have a principal who seems cold and stretched so thin that they're barely staying afloat. So it's easy to assume the worst, like, that woman's a bitch, or I hate that woman, she's so mean, or she's so annoying, or whatever it is. You've already labeled this person, but try to understand the function of their behavior. We're in a much better position to kind of respond effectively. We have to understand the why behind their behavior and come up with a how to deal with it, right? Which brings me into my strategy number 3 is you have to focus on what you can control. This is a big one because let's face it, we're helpers, we're fixers, we want to solve the problem. But when it comes to challenging adults or difficult adults, some things are just not ours to fix, right? You can't control if your teammate is going through a divorce. You can't control if your principal is under pressure from district leadership. You can't control if a parent is dealing with personal trauma. But what can you control? Your reaction, your boundaries, your energy, your professionalism. So let's say a teammate is short with you during PLC every single week. You might not know the full story. Maybe their mom is battling cancer. Maybe they're dealing with a mental health struggle. You can't fix that, but you can choose not to take it personally. You can set boundaries around how much of their energy you absorb. You can keep interactions focused and productive. It's not about changing them. It's about protecting yourself. All right, the next strategy is don't engage with their negative behaviors. There will be times, trust me, when someone says something super passive aggressive or really flat out inappropriate, and your gut reaction, you want to give it right back to them. I've actually had this play out this school year with me. And here's the truth. When you engage with that negativity, you're totally reinforcing that dynamic. Instead, what was I being? I was calm. I took their passive aggressive comment and I ignored it. And we want to intentionally give that non-engagement, right? You're not being a doormat. This is you not letting them win. This is you choosing not to reward that toxic behavior with your attention or your emotional energy. However, this is really, really difficult to do in the moment because your face gets hot, your blood is boiling, you are getting angry. But instead, I need you to say, nope, not stepping into that drama. I've got better things to do. It's hard and it takes practice. I'm 43 years old and I still find it really hard to do. And I'm an avoider. I avoid conflict like the plague. I do not like it at all. Don't like to get in confrontation. So I try to avoid it at all costs. But this works. As long as you're not feeding into that toxic behavior, you've won. All right, the next step is just keep it private. Vent, process, get it off your chest, but be strategic about who you talk to. The staff lounge, probably not the place. Random coworkers, yeah, maybe not. But pick your person who you respect and you trust. They are loyal, they're supportive and safe, and they're not going to spread the drama. Because when you vent to the wrong person, it almost always makes the situation way worse, not better. And remember, gossip has never helped a classroom run smoother or made a school feel more positive, ever. And I say this because venting is a whole nother issue, but venting does work. Try to go home and vent to your husband, vent to your best friend. You can even talk to your therapist about this, but try not to spread gossip all around the school about this person who is driving you crazy. Another kind of bonus strategy I want to talk about is even with someone who feels impossible, look for one thing you can agree on. Maybe it's the success of a student. Maybe it's a shared goal for the classroom. Start there. I want you to say something like, I know we both want what's best for Johnny. How can we work together on that? That can kind of open the door to a more productive conversation. But I will say that sometimes this does not work. It might feel fake. It might feel forced. And the person can feel that too. And they will not okay, lady, get away from me. But here's the deal. Difficult people are just part of the job. I have worked in so many different places. You are going to be part of the lives of some difficult people. But they don't have to steal your joy. They don't have to drain your energy. And they definitely don't get to decide how your day goes. When you approach tough adults with calm, clarity, and strategy, you're taking your power back. So the next time that someone pushes your buttons, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is in my control right now? What's the most helpful next move. And I know this takes so much practice because I've met so many adults who want to dish it right back, but that's only going to feel good in the moment. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I'm really hoping some part of this episode helps you with dealing with those difficult adults in your life. And do me a favor, share it with a fellow teacher. You can also leave me a review or tag me on Instagram. I love how these conversations are helpful for educators. Until next time, guys, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, taskboxing, and inspiring.